Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support really does make a huge difference. You'll find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute. Thank you so much.
My name's Todd, if we haven't met before. First, a few announcements just on upcoming things for this week. So our founding teacher, Peg Syverson, is going to be in town next week, coming in, I think on Tuesday. And so next Wednesday night, our normal Wednesday evening program will be replaced by a special talk by Peg, who plans to read and discuss portions of the second part of the book project that she's working on.
This Wednesday or a week from this Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's right? Yes.
Yeah. Will she be here in the Zendo or will be hybrid?
Yeah, in the Zendo. So the Zendo will be open if you want to attend in person and made available online as well. And next Sunday, we'll have our normal Sunday morning program, but the Dharma talk, instead of having a Dharma talk, we will be having a Jukai ceremony, celebrating the completion of 3 Sangha members completing sewing their rakasus and accepting the precepts. So all are invited to attend, witness, and support that next Sunday.
There will be a reception afterwards as well.
And a reception afterwards. Thank you, Lori. Okay. For the Dharma talk this morning, I thought I would bring you one from Suzuki Roshi rather than inventing one myself. And I like this one. This comes from his book, Not Always So, which is one of my favorites. And one of my favorite lines in the whole book was, and he's giving a talk saying that the most important Zen teaching, and he used to say this all the time, he'd say the most important Zen teaching, and then 10 different times he'd tell you a different teaching. But he said, the most important teaching is only 2 words, not always so. The funniest part about it is he didn't realize he did that. He was thinking in Japanese. In Japanese, it's 2 words. Nobody said it in English. So I love that. So they put that as the title of the book, Not Always So. So this is a talk called Resuming Big Mind. And I'm going to skip around a little bit, not read the whole thing, but read you the most of it, and then we can discuss your thoughts and how it relates to your practice. Resuming Big Mind. And he's talking about seshins, or what we would call practice intensives. The purpose of seshin is to be completely one with our practice. We use 2 Chinese characters for seshin. Setsu means to treat something the way you treat a guest, or the way a student treats his teacher. Another meaning of setsu is to control or to arrange things in order. Shin means mind or heart. So sesshin means to have proper functioning of mind. It is our 5 senses and our will, our small monkey mind, which should be controlled. When we control our monkey mind, we resume our true big mind. When monkey mind is always taking over the activity of big mind, we naturally become a monkey. So monkey mind must have its boss, which is big mind. However, when we practice Zazen, it is not that big mind is actually controlling small mind, but simply that when small mind becomes calm, big mind starts its true activity. Most of the time in our everyday life, we're involved in the activity of small mind. That is why we should practice Zazen and be completely involved in resuming big mind. In Zazen, we do not try to stop our thinking or cut off hearing or seeing. If something appears in your mind, leave it. If you hear something, hear it and just accept it. Oh, that's all. No second activity should appear in your Zazen. Sound is one activity. The second activity is, quote, what is that sound? Is it a motor car or a garbage truck or something? Unquote. If you hear a sound, that is all. You hear it. Don't make any judgment. Don't try to figure out what it is. Just open your ears and hear something. Just open your eyes and see something. When you sit for a pretty long time watching the same place on the wall, you may see various images. It looks like a river, or it looks like a dragon. Then you may think that you should not be thinking, but you see various things. Dwelling on the images may be a good way to kill time, but it's not sesshin. To be concentrated on something may be important, but just to have a well-concentrated mind is not zazen. It is one of the elements of practice, but calmness of mind is also necessary. So don't intensify the activity of the 5 sense organs. Just leave them as they are. This is how to free your true mind. When you can do so in everyday life, you will have a soft mind. You won't have many preconceived ideas, and the bad habits in your way of thinking will not be overpowering. You will have a generous mind and a big mind, and what you say will help others. If we have a generous big mind, and if we have a strong spirit of practice, then there is no need to worry. Dogen emphasized the sparse, simple life. Without expecting anything, we just practice our way. Many students asked how it would be possible to support the temple or group without any plan. And he said, if it becomes difficult to support our temple, we will think about it. But until then, it's not necessary to think about it. So before something happens, it is not our way to think about it too much. In that way, we have complete calmness of mind. Because you have something, you worry about losing it. But if you don't have anything, there is no need to worry. One night, Dogen said, even if you think a teaching is complete and right, when someone tells you a better way, you should change your understanding. In this way, we improve our understanding of the teaching forever. Because you think it is right at that time, you follow the theory or rules, but you also have some space in your mind to change your idea. That is soft mind. It is possible to change your ideas because you know what kind of monkey your thinking is. Sound familiar? Yeah. Sometimes you follow the monkey's suggestion. Oh yeah, that's right. If we go in that direction, we may get some food. Okay, let's go. But when you see a better way to go, you may say, oh monkey, it may be better to go this way. If you stick to your greed or anger or some other emotion, if you stick to the thinking mind, your monkey mind, you cannot change. Your mind is not soft. So in our practice, we rely on something great and sit in that great space. The pain you have in your legs or some other difficulty is happening in that great space. As long as you do not lose the feeling that you are in the realm of Buddha nature, you can sit even though you have some difficulty. When you want to escape from your difficulty, or when you try to improve your practice, you create another problem for yourself. But if you just exist there, then you have a chance to appreciate your surroundings and you can accept yourself completely without changing anything. That is our practice. To exist in big mind is an act of faith, which is different from the usual faith of believing in a particular idea or being. It is to believe that something is supporting us and supporting all of our activities, including thinking mind and emotional feelings. All these things are supported by something big that has no form or color. It is impossible to know what it is, but something exists there. Something that is neither material nor spiritual. Something like that always exists, and we exist in that space. That is the feeling of pure being. If you're brave enough to throw yourself into Zazen for 7 days, a little bit of understanding will help your rigidity and your stubbornness. Almost all the problems you create because of your stubborn mind will vanish. If you have even the smallest understanding of reality, your way of thinking will change completely, and the problems you create will not be problems anymore. But it is also true that as long as we live, we will have problems. So we don't practice Zazen to attain some big enlightenment that will change our whole being or solve all our problems. That is not the right understanding. That may be what people call Zen, but true Zen is not like that. In Sesshin, we concentrate on having the experience of true practice, forgetting all about any idea of gaining anything. We just sit here. If this room is too cold, we will make it warm. And if your legs become painful, you can stretch them. And if it is too difficult, you can rest. But let's continue our practice for these 7 days. Thank you very much. So is it big mind or is it monkey mind? How do you know? Is one controlling the other? I invite all of the monkey mind thoughts and big mind thoughts that you have about these things. What do you guys think? How's the zoo going? You caring for your monkeys?
I think it's real easy to fall into, for me at least, like a trap or a pattern of trying to decide if it's big mind or monkey mind, which is just more discursive activity. So there's some kind of discernment that's involved, but it doesn't seem like conceptually you're going to get there. So like, where does that discernment reside?
Yeah, no, I think that's hits the crux of the problem that Ann and I were talking about earlier. How do you know?
Yeah.
Especially if you're just bringing your normal monkey mind to try and figure it out.
Well, sometimes I feel like my monkey mind is obvious, and then another part of me can say, oh, that's monkey mind. Is that big mind saying that? Like,
I don't know, but I think it's monkey mind to try and go back to the dualism of, is it that one or this one?
that, yeah. But
It's
yeah,
trying
sometimes
to
it's
carve
cool.
them into
Yeah.
2 boxes again, right?
Yeah.
So it seems to me that it reminds me of wisdom beyond wisdom. That Prajnaparamita, what is the discernment? It's beyond discernment. It's beyond, our usual. usual ways. I don't know what it is though. I mean, I keep expecting, I was telling Todd this morning, some feeling, something that lets me know, this is the right way. And I realize from that conversation, it's delusion within delusion.
Hi. So this morning, as I was sitting, well, I did some shifting. You know, Lori has taught us about this shifting exercise, and I tried to do some in the morning. And the exercise was to take your attention into the cave of the heart, so into kind of a deep, dark place where you could rest. And a lot of my meditation was there. And interrupting that place was thoughts about my way-seeking mind talk, which I'm preparing. And it got into a very performative place where I was remembering something from meeting Flint and Cape Cod and a song and what my hint that I was way off in monkey mind was my body was really revving up. And yeah, so that was, I just wanted to offer that as a way. It was so clear because it was really such a big difference between the calm of resting in this cave of the heart place and yeah, these other thoughts. So that was my hint. And yeah, and bringing it back, but also just saying, okay, that's there, and now come back. Yeah, so thank you.
I just wanted to make a reflection with regard to what you're asking of, like this sense of, I experience it as both and I have much more clarity when the monkey mind is trying, like there's a trying to my parts to get at something. And then even when you talk about like being in that Buddha nature, there's an absence of maybe grasping, but is all that I want to say is this the both and Todd, you gave a talk a while back about even this layering of noticing the thinking and then the judgment about the thinking, and then like these layers of, oh, and there's the monkey mind, and what mind is observing the monkey mind is, and until you get into that spacious connected space of nothingness, right? and who's joining us, right? So that's what I'm gonna say, and Izzy's obviously joining in here, so thank you all.
Thank you. Feline mind.
Yeah.
Feline mind. Yeah, what I hear you reflecting on is noticing the physical embodied manifestations, right, that kind of help point us to whether or not something's the habituated monkey response or not, right? Sometimes you can in your body feel the grasping and clinging and nervousness of the concept that gives you a little hint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Joel?
Hi, Todd. Thank you. Thanks for this talk and that wonderful reading. I wanted to talk about something that jumped out at me, which is the two things. One, the shift. I think of it in terms of the shift from perception to apperception, where you're hearing something and then you recognize it with usually with some words, and that I've spent years trying to be at that point, to see where it is, where that boundary is. And I can never find it. So it just, those things just sweep by, and then something else takes its place. But I paid it, over the years, I've read that section from Suzuki Roshi and other teachers who say similar things. And I figure it must be important, and that, and therefore I must grasp it literally. Pardon me. And for myself, what I've come to is okay, well, that's just a natural process for me, that, when I perceive something, I'm going to, then it's going to rocket around in my brain long enough so that some words will form around it. But that it's the next step of calling it good or bad, that is what I need to be paying attention to, and not embracing the calling of it as good or bad. And I don't know, does that fit with what you think that Suzuki Roshi was saying? That the monkey mind is not just ceaseless chasing after sensory perceptions or desires or something like that, but that it is hanging on. It's grasping. Does that make sense to you, or am I missing something important in that teaching?
No, it makes sense to me. I think Suzuki Roshi is pointing at the same instruction that he famously gave by giving Zazen instruction, as basically taking the one seat in the middle of the Zendo to see what happens. Oh, you open the front door, you open the back door of the room, and you sit there in awareness and you wait to see what happens, who comes in. And his instructions is whatever guests come in, good, bad, thought, feeling, right? You allow them to come and you allow them to go. You just don't serve them tea. Right? You remember that one? So what he's pointing at is the practice on the cushion is to use your concentration and awareness to energize what's actually happening, your awareness in the moment, not to have a discursive figuring out of something. So the guest comes in, you're like, oh, it's a, elephant in robes. You don't go, I wonder where the elephant came from. Is there a zoo missing an elephant? How does he sew the robes? How would you get that much fabric? Now you're dancing with the thought. Now you're serving it tea. You just go, an elephant in robes? That's strange. I wonder what's next. You come back to the body, breath, mind. So to me, it's the same kind of instruction that he's giving there. It's we're not trying to figure out through discursive thought what you're seeing or what you're hearing or what made the sound. It's just like, oh, sound. What's next? Oh, thought. Groceries. What's next? So that's how I take it.
So, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Nelda?
Good morning. How are you, Todd?
Good. Good morning.
Thank you for bringing this and thank you everyone in the Zendo and online, because you expand the my practice and practice for each other. And it was in that discussion and what someone at the Zendo brought that I'm bringing, I guess, a question and where I am. I don't know if it was Anne or whoever said, delusion within delusion, right? How do we know monkey mind? How do we know big mind? And the reality is, in this life, in this constructed life, regardless of where we're coming from, there are moments when we have to take action. And so this is tangentially related to your talk in this sense, Todd. I used to have a very simplistic way of deciding I was in big mind. And that was if my heart, body, emotions and mind were all aligned, then I was on the right path. Until I started listening to news reports of the attack today in Israel. And I realized both sides feel like their hearts, minds, bodies, emotions, and thoughts are aligned. And they're at polar opposites in different ways. And so I guess I'm asking this in context of there are times we do have to take action. When the elephant comes in, right? Elephant comes in about to stomp on you. All right, what do you do? How do you know that what you are aligning is big mind as opposed to small mind that feels perfectly aligned as it does for people in the Middle East right now in this particular scenario, Hamas and Israel? That's my question.
Well, I'm glad you just made it a simple one. So, yeah, and hopefully in the next 7 minutes we can give the answer and solve peace in the Middle East. So, well, no, I think you're touching on the root of the issue, which is where I think we started here. Ann and I were discussing this morning, and what John Cooley was bringing up is, when do you listen? Right? The mind has so many thoughts. When do you ignore it as, oh, that's my habituated response? That's monkey mind. And when do you take action and say, no, that's correct. I should go that way. I have no answer for that, but a bit of advice. One is, first consider the precepts. If it goes against any of the precepts, it's not advisable. That much I know. Beyond that, that is the ground of practice. That's why we sit. As we sit, facing the wall, number of players 0, with nothing else to do, you slowly become more and more familiar with your particular flavor of monkey mind. When does it scream, ouch? When does it hit back? When does it run away? What story does it tell? Until you get so familiar with your little monkey, it doesn't fool you as much anymore. But I know of no magic.
That was the perfect gateway. Thank you.
John.
I think this kind of goes back to what Rosemary was talking about too, about the physicality of it, the body. I discovered a cycle of teachings in the Pali Canon I think addressed this topic. I wish I remembered where exactly. I don't right now. But the Buddha, he talks about sort of similarly 2 types of mind, but he describes the one that's maybe more like monkey mind as the puppeteer. And the idea is that discursive thinking is always going to bring these kind of physical manifestations and tics and constrictions along with it. And he sets opposite the puppeteer something called yoni, which translates to like womb mind, belly mind. And I think that's all I'm going to say about that, which is so people know that's out there. It's a really wonderful teaching that has been helpful to me.
Thank you.
So I a little bit along with Nelda, I have had a confusion about this, and it has to do with when I'm sitting and this something, a thought that kind of is repetitive and keeps coming back. And when that happens, there's usually a child part that needs some attention, and I'm always confused whether to something important needs attention, and whether when to use the the sitting to give it the attention that it's calling for. It's something important. Or to make the effort to, and sometimes the effort won't work. It's just kind of overwhelming sometimes to, but yeah, which way to go? I'm a little confused about how to, what to pay attention to there.
Well, this is why we say the practice is transmitted warm hand to warm hand, and why we encourage people to have a relationship with their teacher or teachers, is so that you can work through these little experiments in mindfulness to see, if you try A one day, what you get from it. If you try B the next day, what you get from it. And your teacher can help you maybe see the ways in which you're meeting it that might be helpful or might not be helpful. So we give a lot of generic practices to people, especially in the beginning, but that's a great practice discussion topic for somebody who knows you and is working with you. But short answer here today, I'll say, is, there's no one answer. Each one would be a very interesting experiment. You do the experiment and you see what you get. But in general, we try not to use our time on the cushion for discursive analysis and conceptual engagement. We do that all the rest of the time.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, we got a few minutes left. If anyone else has any questions or comments, reflections.
Old age as I'm getting ready to retire from a different job, starting to do more house cleaning. And the way I've always thought about it is that I'm always gonna have monkeys, but that they get quietest when they have a job. And I bring it there, it's kind of like I always say, Jane Marie and monkeys cleaning service. Because they actually can do a pretty good job doing, they do a mean toilet. But I guess I'm being kind of
Right.
joking to make a point and ask a question, which is, do the monkeys ever get so quiet that they can really always stay in their little corner, or is trying to give them a job just another way of breeding monkeys?
Yeah, you're right.
Serving them tea and maybe setting up a breeding service for monkeys.
Yeah, yes, I would say in some ways what you're describing is the head elder monkey giving the little monkeys jobs, right?
That's what I always feel like, yeah.
That's right.
But I'm like a mature monkey. Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's wrong or bad. It just means that's a step on the path, right? That's right. At some point, we need to kind of leap beyond monkey or not,
Right, yeah, that's my,
Right.
really my question is, how do you give up? Will it ever dissolve?
Yeah, I don't, well, first of all, in my case, it has not. Just start there. And from what I've heard from other teachers who've practiced much longer than I have, they normally warn people to don't expect they're going to go away. But you can't expect not to be fooled by them as easily. Right? So yes, we live in a world of monkeys. Just don't believe them all.
Something I'd like to hear what you think
Okay.
about this, just the way I've been kind of turning this recently myself. It's like how I kind of take it for granted that however this is resolved or met is like mental activity. It's this analytic sort of activity of this or that, which we've been talking about this whole time. But I started reflecting on like what are moments or experiences I had where I don't have to ask myself like what should I do with my mind, you know? And so I don't like practice yoga much anymore like I used to, but I know that when I'm like in a headstand, I don't have to wonder where to put my mind. You know, like on a good day when I'm teaching and things are flowing with the kids and it's moving, there's nothing extra, like there's nothing left over. And so I've been thinking about Zazen as this like effort of just like total engagement with the posture, kind of along what you just said, like the monkeys without a job run amok, and then you just keep birthing new monkeys to control the ones that are already there. And so something about this like total engagement, which I think if we reflect on it, I think we've all touched that before. So I'm just curious about how that may or may not come to a cushion with.
Yeah, it sounds, we often give people instruction, especially new people, instructions that are giving them something to do, because it's so hard to give someone nothing to do and expect them to do it. And so we do this whole engagement with the breath, the whole engagement with the posture or the mind as a way, basically you're giving the monkeys something to turn the crank on. Okay, monkeys, here's your job. Pay attention to the body, right? I don't think you weren't asking about that at the beginning. You were talking about the states of not getting caught in the discursive thought and just kind of knowing what was next.
Earlier today.
No, I mean, and when you started it, when in this interaction, when you started by talking about having those moments and kind of knowing in the headstand and in the teaching that they're just happening and there's no fight.
Yeah, it's like when that discursive mind goes away, it's not there worrying about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like I actually notice and wonder if we all have kind of touched this thing.
Yeah.
That when we then return to our discursive thinking and we have conversations like this about like what is it and you know how can we touch it? And for me it's been helpful to remember that like there are these moments where like everything is totally there's nothing left over to have to try to concentrate because it's such a full engagement with your life, you know. And I think that's tough. It's tough for me to do in such a when it's just me here on the cushion, but I wonder if that is in the right direction.
Yeah, where all of these things are pointing towards the fact that discursive thought isn't the answer, that you aren't going to solve this with the right concept, right? So that the effort to solve it conceptually is the problem, right? And it's not a problem in a sense that it's something we have to get rid of. It's our human nature. We analyze, predict, control, explain, you know, teach others, pass along. And all of it is an oversimplification of what's actually happening. But we're good at it and we build skyscrapers, right? So in a commentary I was just picking up on the Shin Shin Ming right in the beginning, when they're talking about the primal disease of the mind, you know, he says that basically attempting to understand it is like trying to catch a feather in the room using a fan. Like all you do is every time you go after it, you just, I mean, it's a slippery fish, right? You're not going to get underneath and behind the curtain of concepts with the right concept. It's just, you know, like Dogen says, the Buddha way is leaping clear of the one and the many. It's just finding the openness where don't know, not bothered by it right now. I'm standing on my head. Leave me alone. I've got a balance.
So those situations John is describing are examples of leaping clear. That's the way I was taking it.
Maybe. This is our practice. We come here and chew on these things together, knowing full well we won't be able to swallow. That doesn't mean we don't study Buddhist concepts and talk about them. They're all pointers that help us on our way. Mostly, I think of them as encouragement. Anything that encourages you to keep going and not give up, come back and sit again, and it did its job. Whether or not it's right concept, the right concept is the one that makes you sit down again. That's it. Thank you very much.